the race itself. I know everyone always asks, oh, like, are there going to be different formats of racing and things like that? And I would say,
on this week's episode of the podcast, we have Eddie, who is the general manager of HYROX, and Frank, who is the partner and licensing manager. It's such a crucial tool to be aligned with such a powerful brand that's literally exploding. It's only going to get bigger and better.
Not everyone's going to have the chance to race, and that's just the harsh reality. We want the athletes to have a great experience. We want the spectators to have a great experience.
For those that are not affiliated, why should they consider becoming affiliates of HYROX?
I would say it's in everyone's best interest, right, to have that as an add-on of their services.
Let's talk about drug testing in the sport of HYROX. So can you give me some more details on that? Let's jump into the episode.
This episode is brought to you by Wellbeing Fitness Education Center. Wellbeing Fitness help fitness businesses like you set up an education academy inside your business so you can qualify people on a level 2 or level 3 personal trainer certification. Teaching a personal training certification inside your business can add between 40 and up to £80,000 a year in additional revenue, and it also means you can educate and mold these students to be perfect fit employees specifically for your business, meaning you'll never have a staffing issue again. And all you need to do is teach the practical stuff. Wellbeing will provide and take care of all of the theory work. Plus, they will build out the marketing for you so you can get all the inquiries you need to fill up your first course. To find out more, click the link below this video inside the show notes or visit wellbeingfitnesseducationcentre.co.uk.
Frank, Eddie, welcome to the Fitness Marketing Agency podcast. Can you tell us what you do specifically at HYROX?
Yeah, sure. I'm the general manager for HYROX in the UK and Ireland. And Frank?
And I am the partnerships and affiliation manager for the UK.
Great. Let's go way back, because I'm sure a lot of people don't know the history of HYROX. What year did it start and what was the evolution?
Yeah, sure. So we started in 2017 in Hamburg in Germany. And since then we've expanded, I guess, as many listeners may know, across Europe, across the US. The UK is picking up. We've got Australia, came on board I think 2 years ago. Middle East, South Africa I think is coming on board soon. I'm not sure if that's that's a secret.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're expanding a lot internationally. And also within each market we've expanded a lot. So like in the UK is a great example. We've gone from I think 700 athletes per event in the first instance 3 seasons ago or 3 years ago, all the way to now 16,000 athletes in our latest launched event in London in November. So it's been a short journey. Also, when you consider COVID for 2 years, right? So it's really been, I think, effectively, let's say, 5 years or so, and it's been an amazing journey all the way from 2017, one event in Hamburg, to global, almost global events and sellout events and everything.
Why do you think it's been so popular?
I think it goes back to the creation of the concept in the first instance. So a lot of people, there were millions and millions of people, all for decades that have already been doing running, lunges, burpees, squats, in the gym on their regular routines, but now what HYROX has done is it's given them a goal for their training, which was already suiting kind of the type of training that they were doing in the first instance. So I think that's probably the biggest reason. So we like to think of ourselves kind of like the marathon of fitness. So we've come in and we've given all of these people who were training in the gym in many similar ways a goal for their training, just like a marathon did for runners, in a way.
Let's go way back to when the first UK event launched. How did you get involved with the company, each of you first of all? And then what happened in the early days? What was your expectations? How did that first event run?
Yeah, sure. So I got involved with HYROX. I was actually working in Australia. I was working for a tennis event out in Australia. And my sister was actually working for HYROX in the US. And she was like, oh, Eddie, you should get involved. You've always been interested in fitness and everything. And it's a cool company. It seems to be going in the right direction and everything. And I hopped on a call with one of the founders and CEOs, Christian. And we had a conversation, and I was really intrigued by the concept. It sounded really cool, and they happened to be launching in the UK soon after I was returning from Australia, so that kind of the stars aligned in a way, and I got involved in launching in the UK. I think it was 4 years ago, more or less to the day actually now, and ever since I've just been working for HYROX, and I've been on this crazy journey. It's grown like crazy, and that first event. In terms of expectations, I think the expectations were far, far lower. I remember speaking to Christian actually in the US at a Dallas event, and I remember him saying, "Hey Eddie, like, you know, in London we'll have 1,000 athletes, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like, I didn't know what to expect." But it's crazy to now think that, you know, we're leading up to events of 16,000 people, you know, which is just crazy to think. So yeah. But Frank, how did you get involved? I know, but you tell everyone.
Well, I was in between places, right? I was working for a law firm usually during the day, and then in the afternoons, I was training and teaching people, like going into classes and training people, but then also training myself. And I was always I always wanted to work on fitness, but my background never allowed me to do so, because my family has always been going to finance, going to legal, and I did. But I remember when we were looking for someone on the gym licensing side, and back then there was someone else that was working with Eddie and our colleague Amber from marketing. And then Sam decided to actually move away and then go into the army. Back then, I was actually also coming off the process of being in the army. So we kind of traded places, where he was going into the Royal Marines. I was coming out of it. And then, yeah, everything kind of aligned from where I need a break from legal, and then of course everything else. And then I remember that Eddie and Douglas put the job out there, and then Sam was like, "I believe you'd be the perfect fit." And then we went through a couple of meetings, have some conversations, and then ever since I've been working with HYROX.
Were you there day one, the first event in London, or did you come after?
I raced on the first day in London. I raced on the first and second event. Right, so London and Birmingham, the first two events, and I actually volunteered on the first one. So
so Frank was a mega fan for HYROX. This is
I
what
used
he's not
to
saying.
love it, right? Like
he was a mega HYROX fan, and I always remember actually in the first days when we were launching HYROX in the UK, you know, Frank was like, you know, our
Dude, I was
our biggest,
model.
our biggest
I was
fan.
like the Red Bull.
He was our biggest fan. I would go to him for content for partners, and he would kind of, you know, he would stage some Red Bull shots for me. No, but he was always a big fan, which meant that it was a really natural person to reach out to when the job opportunity came up of gym affiliations manager. He was a really natural.
And it was so different, right? Like when we, I was also coming away from kind of CrossFit and the functional side, and then seeing an event. I remember like the first time I went to London XL to do an event, and usually we didn't have the many amount of people do those events in CrossFit at the time, at least not in London. So when I saw the amount of people that were coming in, and back then it was the smallest event that we have ever done, I was like, wow, this is insane, this is amazing. And also the way it ran, that was the thing that got to me. Like most events I always been to has always been slightly more chaotic, and I completely understand that and get it because of the changes of equipment and everything that we have to do. But then on HYROX, everything just seems so easy for people to just go from one thing to the other, and then that's also what got me also to be that mega fan that I was at the time, and I still are, right?
So that first event, what year was it? What was the location, and how many participants?
It was September 2021, and I think we had about 700 participants at London XL. So yeah, that was I guess what was it, three and a half years ago or something?
That was
now?
one day only?
That was a one day only. 700 athletes, and then soon after that event we had the Birmingham event. I think that was maybe like a month or so later, and it was a similar number of athletes. And actually, I think right after those first two events, we already kind of saw this. We were like, okay, the UK's really likes HYROX, because those numbers weren't crazy or anything. But then I think Manchester was already, which was the January afterwards, I think Manchester was already like 2,500, which I think at the time was our biggest ever event at that moment. So I think people are probably getting really sick of hearing us say that it's the biggest ever event that we're experiencing, but it is true. We keep on setting kind of records, let's say, and then we beat the records. So hopefully we can keep on doing that.
That first ever event with 700 athletes, what was the marketing? How did you get those 700?
So it was very gym related. So we were going into gyms, or I personally actually, Frank was an attendee at that time, but I was personally going into many gyms every weekend, multiple gyms, and hosting our PFT, which is our physical fitness test, and that was a great way to build relationships with gyms. Really an amazing target group, right? Because they were, gym goers in the regions where we were hosting events. So it was like a really perfect marketing strategy, I think, to be able to get into those gyms, host a cool, fun event, and give people a taste of HYROX. Now, it was interesting actually in those first moments, the amount of people who I spoke to who said, HYROX, it's never, I can't do it. It's too much for me. It's too much running. And too much running was a very common argument, I guess, or thing that people were saying, and yeah. But then I think what's happened, in the journey in the past, I guess 3.5 years or so since then, is that snowball effect of like, if my friend's done it, or I see someone, from work who's done it, or my family member's done it, then you think, if they can do it, then I can do it. And I think that's been happening en masse, and now we've got this massive snowball that's just continuing to gather momentum because people understand that we weren't just saying it's accessible to everybody. It really is very, very accessible.
Let's switch up and talk about the operational side of HYROX. I'm sure a lot of business owners would love to know some inner details of what actually goes into the organisation of an event. So the last event was at London Olympia. I raced there. It was a fantastic experience as a consumer to HYROX. You said 16,000.
So that was 12,500. 16,000 is the next event in November.
Got you. So 12,500 at Olympia over 3 days.
Yeah.
So before we get into the inner details of the operations of that event, like, what are you guys doing day to day? Are you just twiddling your thumbs before like the next event comes up? Like, just give us some insight into like a day in the life of Eddie and Frank, and then we'll shift to like how much prep goes into basically starting the first HYROX race on that Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of my day to day, it's a lot of working with the different guys in our team, and we have various different departments. I think similar to many events businesses, we have an operations department, we have a marketing department, we have registration, customer service, we have partner sales, so brand partner sales and gym partner sales, and then we have account management for all of our partners. So I think a lot of my day to day is spent working with the different teams on those different areas, and I feel like there are always moments when certain areas are kind of more busy, or it's more of a focus point than others. And, it's my job to try and hopefully, work with those teams to make sure that we're successful across the board. But I also work quite closely with some of our big brand partners, so Puma, Red Bull, My Protein to a lesser extent. One of my colleagues works more closely with them. But yeah, so that's kind of like a little bit of a taste.
How many in the team?
So we have now 8 in our UK team full time.
Excellent. Frank?
My day to day. For me, the most important thing is to try and find new ways to help out the partner gyms, and then to how we can innovate as we move forward into the future, and really try and have that balance of trying to give them the best that we can, but then at the same time try to keep as many people as happy as we can with new processes, easier systems, and then of course I'm quite most of my time is consumed on the sales side of more gym acquisition for HYROX, but then also on just working with other team members from more the global side of our 365, which is the new performance hub that we're releasing this June. And yes, it's mostly on just trying to find different ways to best help everyone as much as we can. Because at the end of the day, I've always said it to our gym partners, right? That we may come into a city maybe once or twice a year, but at the end of the day, HYROX breathes and lives on the gyms, and we owe a great deal of to them for training all those members that come to our events. So as such, it's also our job and our duty to make sure that we deliver the best product that we can, and that's where I work with the larger team on.
Let's talk about the operations like 2 or 3 days before, like Kensington Olympia, and then let's talk about your involvement each day. So like the event started on the Friday, right?
Yes. Olympia actually started on the Saturday, so we were building on the Friday.
Okay, that's when you get first access to the venue. So one day
we had first access to the venue actually on Thursday afternoon.
And then that's when the build starts of the event. So,
yes, exactly.
Something you told me off camera was about the kit. I'd love for you just to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. So basically the way HYROX works is we have a number of trucks. I think it's 8, big trucks, which essentially travel around Northern Europe. I think we have a Northern Europe set of trucks, and then we have a Southern Europe set of trucks. We have a set of trucks in the US, and we have a set of trucks basically essentially wherever we run the events, we have these trucks. And the way it will work, especially in Northern Europe, because we have a very busy calendar, is the trucks will essentially rock up in London, for example, and then a couple of weeks later they'll be in, I think the next one maybe is in Rimini in Italy. So the trucks will essentially just come, they'll unload, we'll put on hopefully a really great event, and then all the equipment and everything will go back onto the trucks, and then it will move on to the next location. So, and that just keeps on going. In our season, it's pretty much week to week, which is a pretty crazy, feat for in terms of operations and everything. But I was also telling you off camera, I think a lot of the genius for HYROX is in the efficiency of the way that they've or our founders and CEOs have kind of decided to run the events, and the brand, the way that the event's branded, the equipment that's used, the nature of how many volunteers and stuff are required. It could certainly be a case where we required a number of volunteers, which wasn't feasible, but we've managed to kind of keep that under wraps in a way. And so that's maybe a little insight into how that works.
Is it kit tested? Like, does someone do a trial run before the event kicks off? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a sports team who will come on board on the Friday, and they're essentially their only role is to make sure that everything from a race perspective is fully up and running. The run course is the right length. All the equipment's working, the sleds are moving in the way that they should, and everything like that. So yeah, I think that, and also I think the equipment partners that we use, Centre now on the kind of more weight side, and Concept 2 on the erg side, they are very reliable. So, it's not equipment that's kind of breaking down every week, which is obviously very, very important. We can't have that with the number of events that we're running.
Can you give some insight into the relationship with Centre, which is new, and then Concept? Yeah,
sure. So Centre's a relatively new partner. They've just come on board, and they're providing all of the workout equipment outside of the ergs, so the ski erg and the rowing machine. And yeah, I think I raced in Berlin, and I raced with their equipment, and I think it's really kind of high quality equipment, and I enjoyed racing with it. So that's been a good start. And then in terms of Concept 2 have been on board for a long time now. I think since the beginning of when we first launched HYROX, they've been on board. So yeah, I think their machines speak for themselves, and I think everyone knows the reliability of the Concept 2 rowers and ski ergs is pretty much second to none. So.
In terms of volunteers, like how many do you need? Like if someone's interested in volunteering, how do they get involved? Like are they there for a few hours? Is it like they're the whole weekend? How does it work?
So in terms of the number of volunteers that we need, we have split shifts now because of the length of the day. So our events now run mostly, depending on the day somewhat, but it mostly runs from 6:30 a.m. doors open until 10:30 p.m. doors shut, more or less. And so we need volunteers for that entire period of time, and we need quite a lot of them. So we need essentially kind of like 100 volunteers in that morning shift and 100 volunteers in the evening shift. But then also if you multiply that by by 3 days. So that's 200 volunteers per day across 3 days. That's 600 volunteers. So it's quite a lot of people that, that the team expands to, and we're super grateful for all of our volunteers who come on board and help us out, as well as all of our staff members. I mean, we also have a big team of kind of head judges who kind of lead the volunteers and staff members in different departments. Aid station being like a random role, which a lot of people wouldn't think about, but obviously it's very important that the athletes have water, and the number of athletes that pass through our rock zone, it's actually not that easy. I think Frank and I have both worked the water station in the past, and it's actually, it's hard to keep up with the number of athletes who are coming by and needing water.
Let's talk about the judging in HYROX. What are the standards, the head judge, what's their roles, and then obviously the volunteers, how does it all work? Yeah,
sure. So the head judges, I think that as we've kind of evolved in the UK market, especially, I think that the judging has kind of increased in quality, and I think that a lot of the athletes actually have noticed. I think they've said, I got caught out on a few wall balls at the end or whatever. But I think most of the time the athletes are actually appreciative of it. I think they like the fact that they've been no-repped. It makes it feel like it is being enforced, and it is. We are trying to make sure it's fair and consistent for everybody. So essentially, the head judges, their role is to make sure that standards are met, across the board, across all the athletes, and they essentially lead on the volunteers, and they will educate the volunteers on what those standards are, and make sure that the volunteers are enforcing it as well. Because as many head judges as we have, we don't have enough to. We need the volunteer support, and they need a team within each station in order to enforce those rules.
Any issues with athletes like not adhering to the rules, and it's been escalated to you guys, or is it self-contained?
Mostly self-contained, I'd say. I don't think we have a huge amount of issues that kind of get flagged, up to a high level or anything. And it's and as I said, mostly I would say the athletes are appreciative, and they like the fact that the rules are being enforced, and that they're being told, how to do the right movements. So yeah, no major issues, I don't think.
And then the environment when you step in, the music, the MCs, like how's that all coordinated? The DJ.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the MCs, DJs, and stuff, like with everything with HYROX, I think that consistency is really key. So where you can work with the same team and people that you trust and you like, on a week to week basis, I think that's really key. So we've had consistent MCs. I think Faisal's one of the most common MCs. I think he's traveling around Europe almost every week during our season to different HYROX events, MCing, and he does a great job in bringing the energy and kind of making sure the athletes feel special when they cross that finish line.
Yeah. A lot of gym owners every day in their gym, like dealing with the operational flow of customers or trying to program it a certain way so the flow of the gym is easy for the customer. So you guys have got 12,000, 16,000 coming up at the next event. Like the flow, the way it is so easy to maneuver inside of HYROX if you're someone watching it or you're about to partake in it. So how much sort of planning goes into that and the course, the layout in preparation?
Yeah, a lot of planning. So in terms of in the lead up to each event, we're reviewing these venue maps in great detail, and not even just in the lead up to each event. I mean, when we launch events now, because they're selling out so quickly, from launch we need to actually have a pretty good understanding of what the venue map's going to look like, because we need to know the capacity, and the venue map dictates the capacity essentially. So that's kind of a key focus both at launch and in the lead up to the event. We get more and more in detail with the venue map, and we have to balance a bunch of different priorities, right? We want the athletes to have a great experience. We want the spectators to have a great experience. We want to direct traffic to our partners, which is obviously very important for us as well. So there's a bunch of different priorities to try and juggle, and it's not always possible to have everyone 100% happy. And sometimes I know that, I think in most cases, spectator visibility at HYROX is probably one of our biggest selling points almost, because you can get so close to your loved one or your friend or your family member who's racing. And at times maybe, you don't have the access to be quite as close as at other times. But we always have to juggle a bunch of priorities.
Let's switch up to the gym network that you've built with inside HYROX. So there's so many gyms out that are affiliated with HYROX. So for those that are not affiliated, why should they consider becoming affiliates of HYROX?
I mean, one of the it always depends how you wanna, what your goals are, right? Like you can have, whether it's from retention to going after more members on your community, is more of what you're looking for. But then also is nowadays with the success and how HYROX is becoming, is on, I would say, it's on everyone's best interest, right? To have that as an add-on of their services. One of them is simple, and is that since we just launched HYROX Excel, we are giving our partner gyms. Partner gyms are essentially the only ones that are allowed to buy tickets. Anyone else that's not a partner gym, then will have to go into a ballot, right? And that's what one of the things that, of course, if people want to race in HYROX and want to secure those tickets, especially from a gym, then is on the best interest of the gym owner to do so. But more than that is what HYROX brings, and is we have always believed that we want to create a community for every single gym, and our CEO and founder has always believed that we should be giving people something to train for, and this is what HYROX has been able to create with the race, and that's kind of the most important thing for us. But then also the community that we bring on with the classes, with the simulations, with everything else. It's more of I'm just gonna go to the gym to get fitter for the summer. I'm just gonna go to the gym because I have X, Y, and Z, right? I'm going to go to the gym because, one, I'm training for this fitness event that's happening right now. But then also, as people do that event, it's more of, okay, what's next? And how do I get better? And I think that's one of the best things that HYROX has done. And is that we don't get people to compete against other people. We get people to race against time. And when you race against yourself, is a lot better than measuring yourself to someone else. Because at the end of the day, it leads to disappointment. If you're always looking to compete against other people, there's always going to be someone better than you, and it just leads to disappointment. Whereas on a race is so much better, because it's, okay, look, I go X amount of time. How do I get better? And the gyms are the best people to help them, because then once you have the data, once you have where you're good and what you may need to improve on, then all the gym owners and all the PTs will be able to give you a guide on how to do so. So from that end is super important. And then when you look at the other things of what we do and what we have, is also marketing wise, right? Marketing wise, we are able to give gyms, if they're looking to market themselves better, a different way to do so with, of course, our gym finder, which is one of the most important things that we have, and how we promote it is also something that I don't believe that everyone knows how that works. And when they are there, we make sure that everyone on our newsletter system sees them, right, for where they are. But then also is something that it allows people to be to find different places and different communities of the same HYROX kind of way.
We have a saying at FMA, people will join a gym, typically they're looking for a transformation. It could be weight loss, it could be sporting specific, injury rehab, but they will stick and become a lifelong member because of the community and the friendships that they make with the gym owners, with the other customers. And HYROX plays a massive part in that. And it also plays a massive part in the acquisition of customers as well that are who are sophisticated and they're looking for these races. I guarantee there's members prospective members out there looking at gyms right now, making a decision. I've just moved to the area, I've just moved job, I need to go to a new gym. I guarantee they're looking, is this gym HYROX affiliated? No. Okay, why is that? They're doing, why would they not do that? Like, I've been involved with this other gym that is HYROX affiliated. I can't go to that one anymore. Or maybe my friends partake in HYROX. I've heard about this. I've seen the pictures all over their Instagram. I want to find out a little bit more. I guarantee they're Googling HYROX, they're going to the Gym Finder page. And like, if you're not on there, like, you're invisible in their eyes. And it's such a, for me, you know, we're looking after so many gyms. I know you are looking after so many gyms, but it's such a crucial tool to be aligned with such a powerful brand that's literally exploding. It's only going to get bigger and better for retention and for acquisition as well. So I make the decision to come on board as a HYROX affiliate for my gym. What's the next steps? What do I receive? How does it work?
When anyone becomes an affiliate, the first thing that happens is that they get sent an email. And on that email, they will have everything that they need. And what I mean by that is they will go with the marketing materials, from photos to videos to the coach's manual, and then, of course, workouts. So they have history of workouts, and then, of course, different workouts of you can always think of it as class workouts, like 8-week workouts and 12-week workouts. From there, then, of course, we move into the academy. And before, we used to give our partner gyms a couple of dates where they could attend and then bring all their coaches to then learn everything that they need to know about HYROX. And something that we have always made it very clear is that we don't teach coaches how to be coaches. Our job is to teach them everything regarding HYROX. So that will be from the concept to the race, the do's and don'ts, some tips for their members, but then also how to program a class. And this is something that has been very important for us to do in the past, which is we will give you the workouts and we will give you programming if you need to. But the idea is for us to give the coaches enough confidence that they can build their own programs with and for those specific members that they currently have. And also is also the understanding that all the gym owners need to have of our programming may work for most of the gyms, but it won't work for all of them. And our job in HYROX is to make sure that the coaches that are designing that programming is for the space that they have, but then also the equipment that they have at that given time. And like I have always said, like, the coaches will always know their customer base better than what we do. So they will always be able to train them how they believe is best to tackle the HYROX race. And one thing to add to that is that our programming has never been rigid. It has always been very flexible and dynamic. So people can change the movements. And as long as people understand and the coaches understand the muscles that they need to activate for certain things and how to train people, then that should be more than enough. And from there, we let them do however they see fit on any workouts.
One thing that is happening with HYROX is the demand. Like, so many people want tickets. So can you just talk through the benefit of being an affiliate and then go into more detail about how a specific gym gets like the access to tickets?
For sure. So we used to have a 48-hour pre-release tickets that our partner gyms, basically the idea was that everyone will be able to get the tickets before the public. Now everything has changed, and this is something that it has been decided within HYROX, which Eddie can give more of an insight. Since I believe it was one of your ideas to get still the tickets for the partner gyms, but then also be able to give enough tickets to the public. And Eddie can elaborate more on that.
Yeah, sure. So it's a little bit of a balance, right? We want to still be able to have new people in the community. That's very important to us. However, we also want to grant, all of our partner gyms, a special access, as a part of being a partner gym and for them and all of their members. So essentially what we've come up with is a little bit of a hybrid model where the partner gyms can have early access to the tickets, and they have special instructions in how to do that, and they can pass on those instructions to their members. And the public now, as of the London event, and our expectation is probably that we'll do the same for future launches as well, is the public will go in under a ballot system. And essentially the ballot system is really, I like it because it sets the right expectations for the members of the public trying to take part. And the reality of the case is, I guess, that we don't have enough tickets available for everyone who wants to race, and that's just a harsh reality. Really, there's not much more we can do to extend the capacity of our races in the short term, and we don't want to extend the capacity so much so that it negatively affects the athlete and spectator experience on the day. So, the capacity, as I mentioned before, has been increasing, and we'll continue to try and find ways to increase the capacity so that we can have as many people and offer as many people as possible the chance to take part. But essentially, for all the time when the demand exceeds the supply of tickets significantly, I think the ballot system makes a lot of sense because it sets the right expectations. It says that, hey guys, not everyone's going to be successful, but we're going to give everyone a fair chance to take part. You're going to have 7 days, so plenty of time to enter your ballot entry and try and have a chance at racing at the event. And then after those 7 days, we'll communicate to the lucky ones and the unlucky ones, and yeah, some people will have the chance, and unfortunately, some people will have to wait until next time, or also, I think we were talking about it also before the show, or also maybe travel abroad for a race, and I've done that myself many times. I think you mentioned that you've done it as well, and I think that's a really, really fun thing to do as well. So if you struggle to enter a UK event, then perhaps looking abroad is also a great option.
I think all it's going to do, though, is drive more consumers to join a HYROX affiliated gym to then get early access. So it's a win-win, really.
For sure.
And the consumer.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that makes sense, right? Because our partner gyms, they're doing a lot of work in training and getting their communities ready for HYROX. And so obviously it's important to give their members, as much as possible a chance to race. And so yeah, I think we're happy with the system we have in place right now, and it's a tricky thing to try and figure out, to navigate, because not everyone's going to have a chance to race, and that's just the harsh reality. But we're trying to allocate it in as fair a way as possible.
Let's talk about some of your partner gyms. If you could highlight a few names in terms of what they are doing, how they started off with HYROX, how they've adjusted their business model to be more aligned with HYROX, the amount of classes they do on their timetable, how they rally all of their members to take part, the benefits of them being affiliated.
Yeah, for sure. So we have so many good stories, right? But just to mention a couple, one of our affiliates that has always been, and I could say a couple, but let's just start with one, would be Tim Reed from ETC, which I believe is also one of your clients. And I remember Tim when I was also coming in new in December 2021 to HYROX, and we kind of had almost the same journey when he was just becoming an affiliate. We go into our Manchester event on January 2022. Tim brought a couple of members, and he completely loved it, right? He had around 20 members or so, everyone on the Aqua team. From there, he came to me and he was like, look, I really love this. I'm going to try and see if I can make this even bigger. From there, Tim started doing more and more classes. And then, as Eddie has mentioned it before, it's kind of a snowball effect or a domino effect, right? Once one piece goes, then it just kind of goes. Tim then started bringing more people into the next event, and which was London then. And then from there, it has come into a way that now, with the classes that he does, with the simulations, but then most importantly, with all the coaches coming together, with the members to the events, which I believe has made one of the greatest difference, he has been able to bring over 100 of his customers or clients to a HYROX race. Now, when you think about how much that is, from having 200 members and over 50% of your members being able to come to a race is insane. And now he's increasing even the amount of people that are coming to those. So that's one of the examples that team has managed to kind of leverage the HYROX name and brand by a lot of effort from him and then delivering really good classes, but then also making sure that he comes with the members. And then you have others, right? Like you have chains such as like F45, for example, and Sarah Kraskett in Cambridge, which, as everyone knows, F45 has certain rules that doesn't allow them to teach any class that they want, but they have to deliver certain classes. Sarah, in this case, decided to do classes on the Sundays or Friday nights, wherever she could, outside the F45 timetable. And all of a sudden, she realized that her community was even getting closer and more together. And since then, it's the same. It has been the same journey with them, where now they bring hundreds of people to our events, and it just goes to show that it works for everyone, right? You also have the gym group, for example, which they have several locations with us. And they've been getting the communities not just stronger, but then also their coaches are now coming with their members to events, which was something that you wouldn't see from a bigger chain. Usually, everyone stays to themselves when they go to this type of larger chains, and all of a sudden you have people coming together, building that culture, and all of a sudden seeing them and the coaches in a race is something that for me has been incredible to witness from the beginning. So there is kind of a couple of samples from your biggest chain to F45, which is also a chain, but then also the smaller gyms and then owners, and it just goes to show, right, that HYROX works for everyone if you can put the effort and time on doing the classes, doing the programming, but most importantly, making sure that everyone that's on that journey, then with the coaches included, come to a race. It can become so much bigger the next time you do it.
So yeah, Tim's done an amazing job, and when he was on the podcast and conversations I've had with him and Charlie, he's created that ecosystem where a customer comes through the door, like day one, the language is talking about HYROX. And then the amount of slots he has on the timetable for specific HYROX sessions, either as a paid member or drop-in as well. And then his members are doing HYROX. They all get the pictures. Guess what the conversation is? Mm-hmm. When those members speak to non-members, they're going to ask them, hey, I saw you, what was that thing that you did at the weekend, pulling a rope or pushing a sled? Or what's that? Oh, that's HYROX. Oh, I do that at Tim's gym. Oh, you should come along. And then suddenly you get this like lead flow of referrals coming in, all because of the thing that they're aiming for, which is HYROX and training for. Yeah.
And it's funny, like even just anecdotally, like speaking about my experience in gyms, obviously we go to multiple gyms as part of working for HYROX, and we go to gyms on a personal level as well to try and stay fit. But I hear more and more people like in the dressing room and stuff talking about HYROX or doing HYROX movements and saying, oh, hey, which event are you training for and stuff. And I think clearly it's a great tool for community building, right? I think if you're training towards the same goal, maybe even together as a doubles pair, it's a great way of forming a bond within the community and forming a bit more of a relationship, rather than I just go and I work out with those people and then I don't necessarily speak to them and then I go and go to work or whatever. Instead, it's kind of like, I think it's fostering like more of a sense of community and more of a sense of belonging, and also a great opportunity for people to go to an event together, right? So rather than, I think a great way of building a community as well is, taking, if you have a community in the gym, but also that community is willing to travel to an event together and kind of support each other and things like that. I think that would seem like a great progression in that community and a strengthening of the community. If it's not just a community in the gym, it's also a community outside of this different event, but it's related to what you've been doing in the gym.
Let's talk about drug testing in the sport of HYROX. So can you give me some more details on that? Because I've seen various things in Facebook groups and people talking about it.
Yeah, sure. So, like with other sports at the elite level, it's important to make sure that it's a level playing field and that no illegal substances are being taken in order to get an edge over your opponents. And so we've recently announced an implementation of drug testing at the elite level. And so that's being rolled out already in advance of the Nice World Championships. And so that's an important step in terms of like those elite guys and making sure that it's a level playing field. I don't think, we don't suspect that there's a whole load of that happening right now, but this will make sure that everyone's competing on a level playing field.
How many people are in the elites?
15.
15 males, 15 females. So it's the elite 15 is the name of the elite races, let's say, or the highest level of racing at HYROX. And there's 15 males and 15 females, and they compete against each other not only at the World Champs but also at 4 majors across the season. So there's a select few majors in which people can, or these elite members can qualify for the World Championships, and they do so through their times, and they get into those majors through their times in regular races. So that also provides an awesome opportunity for someone who's maybe not an elite yet, but who is posting amazing times, and they have something to strive towards to try and get into those majors and then subsequently into the World Championships as a result.
So I guess if you're in the elite 15, there's always a chance that you can get relegated out.
Yes, yeah, for sure. So it's a very interesting. I think last season ahead of the Manchester World Championships, I think that there was some last minute reshuffling and someone lost out and someone managed to get in. I think even on the day, actually, James Kelly from Australia, he was at the Manchester event. He was just going to be racing in the regular race, so not part of the elite race. And then I think there was an injury on the day, and he said, so we were looking for a replacement, and he was the next one down, in the list, and he happened to be there. So, we said, hey, James, are you gonna, do you want to step up? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And then he came and he raced. And I think he did quite well. I think maybe he came like sixth or seventh. Yeah, something like that.
Can you drop me a few other names that other people listening or watching this might know?
Yeah, for sure. I think Hunter McIntyre is a big name in the sport. I think he's an amazing personality in the sport. And I think also it's like, he's certainly not boring, so like I think at the top of the sport it's important to have someone who's inspiring, and I think he's an incredible athlete. He's also incredible in the way that he's so strong, but he can also run incredibly quickly, especially for his size, and he has our world record and he's our reigning world champion in HYROX. So I think a lot of people will be familiar with him. I think Lauren Weeks on the female side. Apologies to the English community. I'm naming to Americans right now, but Lauren Weeks on the American side is at the top of the female kind of racing game, and she's posted some amazing time. She's also been I think kind of a little bit part of the furniture at HYROX, because they've both been around since I think the very early days, and they've been doing amazing at kind of like. To be able to stay at the top, I think, is super impressive, given the level that they're being pushed to by a lot of new people coming up and a lot of new competition to face.
And it was recently streamed live.
Yes, yeah. So we live stream the majors and the World Championships, so that everyone in the world kind of has a chance to watch those guys and be inspired by them, and hopefully, it gives them something to work towards.
Have you seen any pro or semi-pro athletes from other sports come into HYROX and just hit it from like their first race?
Yeah, we have seen people from different sports. One example I think is Sylvain Distin, who he was a footballer for I think Everton and Man City, and he came and I think he raced in doubles in Manchester a couple of years ago maybe. A lot of people maybe don't know, but I believe I hear through the grapevine that John Terry was signed up for our London event, but he couldn't make it in the end due to injury, unfortunately. So yeah, I think we're going to start seeing more and more elite athletes from different disciplines. Coming. I think we had an Ironman world champion come and race. So I think we'll see more and more of that, which will be a really interesting thing to start seeing like this. These people from different fitness backgrounds and sport backgrounds come and race and get people's take on how well they're going to do.
with so many people coming through the doors, like 12,000 at the most recent London event, like tell me some of the things that go wrong, some of the funny things, like the penalties that people get, like give us some insight behind the scenes that we don't always see firsthand.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think penalties is an unfortunate reality in HYROX. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of the judging and making sure that it's consistent and fair for everyone. One funny, I would say funny event, maybe it wasn't funny for the people who were penalized, but I thought it was kind of funny. It was in our Paris event. I think we had like a huge amount of athletes who were running the wrong number of laps, and unfortunately I think, you know, the problem with it is that, you know, once one person goes in the wrong time, then it's very easy for you, if you're behind that person and you're seeing everyone going in after a certain number of laps, you have to be very hard-headed to stick to, you know, your understanding of how many laps there are. And so I think some people, you know, have been misled at times. And I think in the Paris event was a particular example where a lot of people did the wrong number of laps. We've taken many steps, because I know it's something that people really stress about in advance of the race. So we've taken many steps to try and make sure that it's as clear as possible, because ultimately, of course, we don't want to mislead the athletes. We want to make sure that it's as clear as possible for them to do the right number of laps. And so we do that.
That's one of the funniest things, right? When like people are trying and like they doubt that they can count. Like I've been on that so many times, which is like, okay, am I doing 1, 2, 3, and they come to you and they check and check and check again and again that they're counting it right. Yeah. And then I've been in that position where I have to walk with someone and I'm like, look, that's the in and that's the out. So we're going to do it together. And now 1, 2, and then 3 or however many laps that is. And worst thing is, right, a lot of times they still get it wrong and they do an extra lap. And it's, for me, that's one of the funniest things. Just like people trying to count and then not being able to get it. It's
funny, but I also understand that they're like, whenever I'm in advance of a race with multiple laps, like I always second guess myself, and I often will reach the finish line and be like, oh, please, I hope I've done all the right laps and things like that. So one great example actually was Berlin, where it was just 1 lap, which was so nice. So it was outside, so nice. Right? It was outside, and I think, you know, there was a bit of some of the athletes were concerned when they heard it was outside. But I went there, and I have to say, I think it was my favorite HYROX race that I've ever raced in, and it was really cool. And I think the fact that it was 1 lap really, like, it alleviates a lot of that stress of, like, you know, counting the laps.
Anyone run backwards the wrong way around the course? Any issues on the course?
I'm sure that we've had people running backwards. You know, it's hard. Although I have to say it's very hard to run the wrong way around, because literally everyone is running. In theory, everyone's running the right way around. So to get it wrong is wrong is really, really hard. I think we often get people going out the in and in the out, you know, so I think some people get that confused. But yeah, as I say, we try and make it as simple as possible.
Sometimes
for people.
people's lack of preparation, that if they've not been there before, they don't check out the videos, the emails, they don't read anything, they just turn up and... Exactly,
yeah. So it's best to be prepared, you know, make sense of the laps in whatever way you need to do for yourself to understand it when you're racing, and then go out there and hopefully do a good time.
What do you think the future of the sport is? Where will this be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, great question. I think that there's a lot of potential still for HYROX. It's amazing to think of how far we've come when you look backwards, but also when you look forward, I think like there's still so much scope for improvement, for more global kind of domination, if you will. So I think there's a lot more room for growth. We're becoming more and more global. So I think that one clear thing, you know, in the future of the sport is to become truly global and to really have HYROX events, you know, in, let's not say every single country in the world, maybe that was quite a long way out, but in every big region, so that almost everyone can travel within a few hours, 4-hour flight or something to a HYROX event, I think is a reasonable goal, and I think we're already well on our way to that trajectory. I think also it's about taking all of the new markets in their infancy and bringing them to the level kind of where the UK is at in terms of numbers. And I think that the more markets that we launch and things like that, it seems like the growth is really there. You know, Australia is a great example. I think we launched Australia maybe 2 or 1.5 years ago or something, and it's just absolutely blown up out there, and it's amazing to see. So I think the growth in each market, and then also more and more global reach is super important. And then in terms of the race itself, I know everyone always asks, are there going to be different formats of racing and things like that? And I would say never say never. But I also believe that, you know, we're very convinced about, you know, we have a uniform race, and we've also released various different ways in which you can complete the same race. So obviously you can do the doubles, you can do the relay, you can do the pro, you can do the singles, of course. The HYROX division in the US is another funny new division. The HYROX division is when athletes wear a weighted vest, and they complete HYROX with a weighted vest. So it's another kind of almost like a even more a difficult pro version of the race, I think. So I think different ways in which you can race. I think we've already released multiple of those. Like the relay is still, you know, I think are maybe only 2 years old or something. The pro doubles is still relatively new. So I think those different ways in which we can complete the race, of course, maybe we'll come up with different iterations of that. But I think we're really convinced in the uniform nature of HYROX, and we would, I think, many of us would always say, you know, it's really a compelling prospect, because you get to set a time and then you get to come back a year later and try and beat that time, you know, and I think that element is really powerful.
We always get asked, right? Like we get more than anyone, especially I think myself and then probably you, that people will always ask us what's going to change, and what's going to change in the next 3, 4, 5 years. And I will say to you, and I always say something very or the same, that is that I think the question is more of what's not going to change in the next 5 years, because that's kind of the most important question for us. Because for me, is that we can build a business on what's stable, right? And then 3 years from now or 5 years from now, no one is going to come to us and say to us, oh, we wish that the HYROX events were smaller, or we wish we could buy as many tickets as we could, right? Like everyone is like, if and what works for us now is what makes us great, then that's something that we should always invest time, and then in those 3 to 5 years, it would probably most likely still pay dividend to it, right? So for me, and I guess also for HYROX, is having that race, the stable race that we know is something that works, but then also is very scalable. Will be and is the best thing for us right now, but then also for everyone else on the partners, on the partner gyms and everyone else, because they can build a business around what is successful. And I don't think also a lot of people want change to be too drastically. We need something that we can be able to foresee for the long term, and stable things do tend to last long.
Yeah, but also if you even take your own experience, Ben, like if I think about my experience, I would say, it would be a real shame if HYROX stopped doing the race format that they've been doing, because I've got my times, you know, in my back pocket, and even though maybe I won't try and beat my times this season, but next season, you know, I want to be able to compare. I want to be able to say,
if suddenly the weights change, or there's a different exercise.
Yeah, exactly. Or know, I think it would be a great shame if we didn't continue to run the races in the same way that we do them. But maybe, as I said, maybe with some different variations, some fun variations, which we've also seen in different environments as well. I saw it firsthand in Berlin, like running, you know, a HYROX in an outdoor kind of, or a semi-outdoor setting. In Miami, we did it on the beach. So, like, I think there's also different settings which can also mix it up and make it special. London Olympia is such a special venue. You know, there's a lot of different things that make, even though the race is the same, that make the events feel different depending on where we are.
Do you think in the UK you'll open up into other cities, or we just stay like London, Birmingham, Manchester,
I think
Glasgow, and then obviously Dublin?
Yeah, I think for sure there's the potential. I wouldn't want to give away anything confidentially, but also, I can also say transparently that we haven't confirmed anything, but we will obviously, if and when we manage to increase the calendar and add another location, we will make sure that, of course, we communicate that to the community as and when we're ready to do so. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't say we're done in the UK in terms of venues and locations and events and stuff.
At the most recent London event, I saw teenagers and young children taking part in the event. Tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. So what you would have seen is the Young Stars event, which essentially is giving people aged between 8 all the way up to 15 and anyone younger than 16, because 16-year-olds is the minimum age to race in the regular event. And essentially the Young Stars gave all of those kids the opportunity to get involved in HYROX. And what we did was essentially take the HYROX event, we broke it down, and we made it in a way that was suitable for younger children. And I think the London event was a great opportunity to kind of kickstart that. That's the first event that we've done of that nature. And it was an amazing opportunity because we had the space actually in London Olympia in that kind of mezzanine layer. And yeah, something that we'll definitely be looking to do more of in the future. We haven't yet announced the next event where we'll be hosting it, but I'm sure we'll be hosting it in more events next season.
So basically just get people involved at a very early age.
Yeah, 100%. I think that kids always love to do what their parents are doing, right? So I think, giving those children the opportunity to do what mum and dad or their brother, the older brother or older sister are doing, I think is a really cool initiative.
That was a fantastic episode with the boys from HYROX. If you're interested in becoming an affiliate of HYROX for your gym, simply just email frank@hyrox.com. He will share more information with you in terms of what's involved and how you can implement this into your business. I'll see you on the next podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Fitness Marketing Agency podcast. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe so you can catch future episodes.